This is kind of exciting for me, especially since I don't do videos in a car. And I've always thought, oh, how odd. People are doing videos in a car? Okay, whatever. But yeah, so this is my first video in my car. I'm at the Balboa Peninsula. I'm at the peninsula. So you can see some traffic behind me. Yeah, I'm in a parking lot near Starbucks, near the Lido Walk. It's called the Lido Walk. It's very nostalgic here in Newport Beach for me because my dad worked for the city of Newport Beach. So yeah, I thought I'd take you on my rainy afternoon. So here I go. Like I said, this is my first time in my car doing a video. I'm not driving because I don't multitask well. So I'm sitting in a parking lot doing my video. Here we go. We're reading March 5th on Beyond Belief, from the Beyond Belief book. I'm not upset that you lied to me. I'm upset that from now on, I can't believe you. Friedrich Nietzsche, 1844 to 1900. Oh, how we want to put our faith in something out there. A lover who stays infatuated. A friend who will always listen. A bank account that never says funds not available. And a program that shows us the light and the way. We want it so badly that we put people on pedestals. We kneel at the altar of false gods, and we set our course for the future as the time and the place where we will be worry-free and wanting for nothing. Putting something, someone, or someplace on a pedestal invites wishful thinking, and it allows us to delegate blame. What would one call today's expectations? We call them premeditated resentments or disappointments. But don't worry, it won't be our fault. With maturity, we look inward for solutions from our voice of reason. Most addiction is born of something that we think is lacking inside of us. We searched and searched for the right something to fill the hole. It was never enough, but we somehow believed that everything would be okay. Our escape from reality would protect us, and the harmful consequences would never be faced. But if our addiction didn't fill the hole, how would cutting off the supply fill the void? Many of us tried the program and fellowship, putting the 12 and 12 bus to happy destiny on probation. Becoming dependent on fellowship is less harmful than process or substance abuse. But are we setting ourselves up to say to the fellowship upon our first setbacks, "You lied to me. How can I ever trust you again?" We can't cure addiction with a better artificial outside agent. The answers we seek come from within. The great thing about fellowships and programs is that they provide the experience, kinship, and change of scenery that we need while we get our shit together. But they aren't the answer. The experience of others will help us find our own answers and chart our own course in recovery. Am I acquainted or reacquainted with a voice inside that I can trust? It shouldn't be new to me. In my addiction, didn't I always have a voice inside that asked me, "Who do you think you're kidding?" With maturity, we look inward for solutions from our voice of reason. Most addiction is born of something that we think is lacking inside of us. And for me, it was always easier to have someone tell me what to do versus me actually having to think about it. Right versus wrong. And I have to say that being in religion, helped with that. They gave you the choice between right and wrong. And then you decided if you were going to actually do it. But they gave you that choice. It wasn't like you got that and said, oh, well, I'm going to make it this way or I'm going to make it that way. Because with a religion or with biblical views, you have only one view of how it should be. And that's it. It's black and white thinking. So for me, I now realize that, there was something lacking in me, right? Most of addiction is born of something that we think is lacking inside of us. And I never felt like I could make a wise decision on my own, right? And we're told that we can't really rely on our own imperfect human selves because we're not God. So God is higher and he's the higher power. And so he makes that decision. He makes decisions for us and we just follow along because we shouldn't be trusted with our own decisions. And I'm realizing there's a lot of different ways to look at a problem, or that if I'm coming across some decision that I have to make, I don't have to think one way. I can think, there's a lot of different ways to think about it. And I like the point where it says becoming dependent on fellowship is less harmful than the process or substance abuse. But are we setting ourselves up to say to the fellowship upon our first step back, you lied to me. How can I ever trust you again? And I'm realizing with any group, right? With any group that you are in, you can't rely on the individuals in that group or the group itself. You really do have to make decisions on your own. And when you haven't for so many years, you question yourself constantly. I notice that I do that all the time. I'm constantly questioning my decisions. And so addiction comes in many forms, and a codependency, I feel, comes in many forms. It was just so easy to go right into, I went from a codependent in a household with an alcoholic being my dad to a codependent being in a cult. It was very easy for me. It wasn't very difficult. Children of alcoholism. That's what. Judith S. And I'm probably botching up her last name. Sykes. So yeah, I'm botching up. Seixas. I'm not really sure how to say that. It looks like it's sexist, but I don't know. That's what it looks like to me. I'm going to read you some of the characteristics of a child who comes from alcoholism, right? Beautiful, isn't it? So I thought I'd share. It's the next day, and of course I got interrupted for you, right? You work with it. So these are the characteristics of a child, an adult child of alcoholics, okay? Lack of trust. Feel isolated and lonely. Deny or suppress deep feelings. Feel guilty. Feel unnecessarily embarrassed and ashamed. Wish for closeness, yet fear it. Have a low opinion of yourself. Feel sad. Need to control yourself. Need to control others. Split the world into all good or all bad. Have an exaggerated sense of responsibility. Want desperately to please. Have trouble standing up for your own needs, overreact to personal criticism. So I can't help but think that some of these characteristics, I have, is God an alcoholic? Because, I mean, really, these are characteristics of someone who believes in God, right? Think about it. Lack trust. You're not supposed to trust yourself, right? You have to trust Him to make all the decisions. Feel isolated and lonely? Well, Jehovah's Witnesses, we were not allowed to go into the world, right? We had to just be with our little group. Deny or suppress deep feelings? Well, you couldn't figure out who you were, and if you didn't agree with the group, you had to suppress that. Feel guilty all the time, right? Feeling guilty all the time because you didn't go out and service enough. You had thoughts, right? Differing from the group. Feeling unnecessarily embarrassed and ashamed. Well, if you didn't give good talks, right? If you couldn't give a good talk, if you couldn't get up in front of people and show your worth as a Jehovah's Witness, yeah, it made you feel embarrassed and ashamed that you couldn't do what everybody else was doing so easily. Wish for closeness, yet fear it. You wanted what the world had, Christmas, holidays, right? We wanted that, but we didn't really know how to get that. And we were afraid because we couldn't do what everybody else was doing. Have a low opinion of yourself? Well, you were just always guilty, so it made it really hard. Feel sad? Well, yeah, because we weren't accepted for who we were. It was hard. Need to control yourself, always, right? You could never say what you wanted to say. Need to control others, your children, right? At the Kingdom Hall, they had to behave a certain way. Otherwise, you were not a spiritual family. Have an exaggerated sense of responsibility. It was always our responsibility to take care of other people around us that we didn't even know, right? Knocking on doors, trying to encourage them to become Jehovah's Witnesses. Want desperately to please, always, God. Always wanting desperately to please God, but never really figuring out how that was supposed to happen. Have trouble standing up for your own needs. Always, right? Elders, they didn't understand what maybe a single mom was going through with 4 kids. And having to try and explain it to them was difficult, especially if you were a woman. Your needs, emotionally and physically, to men who don't understand women. Not really. Overreact to personal criticism. Well, that's easy, right? Especially if you have always been criticized if you were in a alcoholic home. So it was just so much easier to be able to go right into a cult. It was very sad. Very, very sad. So I thought I'd share that with you. I didn't get an opportunity to finish up what I was doing yesterday. And it takes a long time to get our shit together. And it helps when you're in recovery from anything to hear other people's experiences, because you don't feel alone. But I thought those characteristics from alcoholic home into a cult was very similar. So it made it so easy, right, to go right into a cult, especially if you came from a home where there was so much dysfunction. So yeah, you're not alone. Thank you for letting me share. Thank you for bringing me into your lives. I am officially at work. And yeah, this is where I am right now. I was in a parking lot yesterday because it was raining and in my car. And like I said, I don't drive and do this because I don't do well multitasking. But I had a break. So I wanted to share where I am and let you know you're not alone. And this is a really beautiful place. I wanted to show that too. So I hope this video finds you and your family doing well, your family's doing well, and follow your bliss and be good humans.